This is TrueGrit.
Good morning guys, and welcome to this first video of our new series dedicated to professional archery. We'll start by building our own bow press, the most indispensable tool for an archer. And as usual, we'll do it with a little bit of work but spending very little money. But first thing first, let's start with the shopping list. Every single thing you're gonna need for this project is linked in the description. As usual, don't just go and buy everything right away. Try to find as much material as possible without buying it. And gather all the material before you start the project, so once you start you can finish it, and follow each step carefully so you avoid making mistakes and wasting time and material. For this project we're gonna need a 48-inch bar clamp. Cheapest around at the moment is the Jorgensen, $40 at Home Depot. I suggest you buy that one. We're then gonna need a foot or two of a 2x6 board. Anything you can find around, you don't need to buy it. 2 mending plates, 10 inches long. 3 M6 bolts, 25 millimeters long with 3 nuts and 6 washers. We're then gonna need a few inches of foam insulating tape and a few inches of double-sided mounting tape. Try to find them around, don't buy an entire roll of them. Let's jump right into the job, and as usual, with very little money and a little bit of work, we're gonna build something that is very efficient and professional. Fix the first mending plate underneath the table, making sure it sticks out the front at least 7 inches. Put only one screw, make sure that the mending plate is square with the table, and then put the second screw. If you don't have a wooden table, just pierce a small hole through the table and fix the mending plate with the very thin nut and bolt. Align the bottom end of the clamp bar with the mending plate we just put on. Mark the other end on the clamp on the table and put underneath the table at that mark the second mending plate. Make sure that the whole parallel clamp fits perfectly on top of the 2 mending plates. And then make sure that the bar is parallel to the table and that there is at least an ½ inch distance between the sliding part of the parallel clamp and the table. Pierce a hole into the bottom mending plate to fix the bar of the clamp into it. Then cut the excess of the mending plate that sticks out underneath the bar. Smoothen the edges of the cut as usual, and then go on the other side of the clamp. And on the fixed part of the jaw, drill 2 6mm holes, one on the top and one on the bottom. Place the fixed part of the jaw on top of the mending plate. Make sure that it's the right distance from the table, and then inside the holes that you just did, keep drilling to go through the mending plate. And then simply fix the jaw to the mending plate with 2 6mm bolt, putting another washer underneath. Fix with the 6mm bolt the other end of the clamp as well, and make sure that the sliding part of the jaw moves freely and doesn't hit the table. Let's now get our 7x2 board and cut 2 pieces of 7 inches out of it. These 2 pieces of wood that we just cut are going to be the extensions of our parallel clamp's jaw. Now let's measure the distance between the parallel clamp bar and the table, detract from it at least ½ inch, and then report this measure on the bottom of both sides of each extension. On the same sides, accurately mark and draw the midline. Being the wood 2 inches thick, the midline is gonna fall exactly 1 inch from each side of the board. Now accurately measure the width of the clamp bar and report it on the midline from the first mark that we did towards the center. Now put the extension on a vise and with a 2mm or 4mm drill bit, carve 3 or 4 holes along the midline between the 2 marks that we did. While you're drilling, make sure that you're going down perfectly perpendicular to the extension upper face by checking the drilling direction from the front and from the left or the right side. Go through the holes you just did with progressively bigger drill bits up to get to the 10mm bit. Then just wobbles left and right or front and back with the bit through the holes to create one single oval hole through the surface. Repeat the same process on the other side of the extension. The 2 oval gaps that you created on each side of the extension should join in the middle to create a single of a gap that goes through all the length of the extension. This gap is meant to house the metal bar of the clamp, allowing the extension to slide freely together with the jaw sliding part once it's attached to it. Take some time to refine the hole with a wooden file, smoothing away all the dents and wood chips that are inside so that the extension can nicely slide into the clamps bar. Try the extension on into the clamps bar and repeat the whole process for the other extension. Now on the opposite side of both extensions to where we carved the hole, we need to carve a gap to house the both cams. Let's go ahead and mark on the opposite edge to where the hole is 1.5 inch from the edge. At this distance, parallel to the edge, let's draw a 3.5 inch line, which is enough depth to house almost all bow cams. With the circular saw exactly on the line that we made, let's cut 3.5 inch inside the extension. Then measure how far apart are the split limbs of your bow. You'll see that most bows are just 3/4 inch apart, and draw another line 3/4 inches from the first one and cut through it 3.5 inches inside the extension. Then with a screwdriver or a scalpel, remove the wood between the two cuts. With the wooden file, refine all the sides of the gap, and then take your bow, place your limbs on top of the gap and make sure that they perfectly fit, they don't stick out, and that the cam has enough room to spin freely into the gap. Repeat the entire process for the other wood extension, and then on the opposite side to where we digged the gap for the cam, put mounting tape and cut off the mounting tape on top of the center hole and all the excess of mounting tape around the jaw face. We end up with two jaw extensions. Slide them in the clamps bar with the cams gap facing into each other. Put in the sliding part of the jaw and check that the gaps are matching and the two extensions are perfectly aligned and that our bow perfectly fits between the gaps. Now let's just put a little bit of foam tape on each side of the gap so that it doesn't ruin or scratches the limbs of our bow. And then on each side of the gap, let's screw in a little metal plate that sticks out just 1/4 inch to avoid the bow to pop out when we're squeezing it between the jaws. Gently hammer down the sticking out part of each metal plate to give it just a little bit of a downward pitch for extra safety. Try again the two jaw extensions on the clamp to make sure that everything fits perfectly and they are perfectly aligned, and try again that the bow perfectly fits between them. Firmly tie up the bolts on both ends of the parallel clamp. Clean up the face of both parts of the jaw. Peel off the plastic film on the mounting tape of both extensions. Press each extension against its part of the jaw. Put a piece of wood between the two extensions and press them against each other. Let the mounting tape adhere for a couple of hours and the job is finished. And we're gonna see in the next episodes how to use this very effective bow press. And guys, as usual, please like the video down below and subscribe to the channel to support it.